Hey, janitor, you missed a spot. Maybe if you look harder, you'd find your dignity too. The room erupted in laughter. The voice came from Ethan Ward, regional manager Dale Suntech, a man who wore arrogance like a suit. His words sliced through the sterile air of the conference hall, echoing off glass walls and polished marble. Darius paused mid-wipe, his gloved hand frozen above the table. His eyes, calm and unreadable, reflected the mockery around him. The interns snickered. The executives smirked. He simply nodded, wrung his cloth, and moved on, his quiet dignity only making their laughter sting sharper. The faint scent of disinfectant hung heavy, masking the rot of superiority. Darius had worked there for months, mostly during night shifts. The company hosted a diversity symposium that morning, the irony of which no one seemed to notice. Posters about equality plastered the walls while the lone black janitor mopped under them, invisible. He moved slowly, methodically, as if every stroke of the mop was polishing away an insult. Ethan leaned back in his leather chair, sipping his espresso. "You people are great at cleaning. I'll give you that," he said, the words dripping with false humor. His colleagues chuckled uneasily, unsure whether to laugh or look away. Only one person, a junior HR associate named Melinda, glanced at Darius with discomfort. Darius's silence unnerved Ethan. There was something unsettling in the janitor's composure, something that didn't fit the image of a man who should have cowered. But Ethan dismissed the thought. In his world, silence was submission. Later that day, Darius entered the executive boardroom again to pick up trash after a meeting. Ethan was still there, discussing projections with investors. He didn't stop talking even as Darius bent to collect crumpled papers. "You know, it's funny," Ethan said loudly. "No matter how far we've come, some people just stay stuck where they belong." The investors laughed politely. Darius's hand tightened around a discarded coffee cup, the cardboard creasing under his grip. His eyes flicked toward Ethan, but only for a second. He said nothing, placed the trash in his cart, and rolled away. That brief glance, however, made Ethan's laughter falter. In the break room, whispers followed Darius. Some employees avoided him. Some offered pitying smiles. One man, a fellow janitor named Carl, whispered, "Don't let them get to you, brother. They'll never change." Darius simply replied, "People change when the mirror is clean enough." The days that followed deepened the ridicule. Ethan often called Darius over in front of others, asking him to fetch coffee or wipe an already clean surface. Every task was another performance for his ego, yet Darius performed each one with quiet precision, watching, learning, waiting. When a technical glitch hit the company's central servers one morning, panic spread. Files were corrupted, emails lost. Ethan barked orders, trying to maintain control. "Get IT down here," he shouted. But IT couldn't figure out the issue. Hours passed. The company's entire presentation to investors was on those servers. Darius appeared quietly at the door with his mop bucket. "Want me to clean the mess, sir?" he asked, voice calm but edged with something unreadable. Ethan sneered. "Not unless you've got a degree in computer science, janitor." Darius tilted his head. "Maybe I do." The room fell silent for a second. Ethan snorted. "Right, and I'm the Queen of England." The laughter resumed, but something in Darius's tone lingered, an unsettling undertone of truth. That evening, while Ethan fumed at his glass office, the IT director received an anonymous message, a set of precise steps that could fully restore the corrupted system. The signature was a simple D. Within minutes, everything was fixed. Ethan took the credit immediately, claiming he guided the recovery himself. The investors praised him for leadership under pressure. But Melinda noticed the janitor's faint smile as he mopped outside the room, where Ethan boasted. A few days later, Dale Suntech prepared for its annual gala. The upper floor was off-limits to staff, But Darius was assigned to set up equipment. The night before the event, Ethan found him inspecting the podium's wiring. Trying to steal something? Ethan sneered. No, Darius replied, his voice even. Just making sure everything runs smoothly tomorrow. Sure you are, Ethan said, stepping closer. You know, if you'd worked harder in school, you could have been someone. His grin widened. But I guess mopping floors is easier than understanding numbers, right? Darius's gaze didn't waver. Sometimes, the people who understand numbers understand people better than those who count them. Ethan frowned but brushed it off, muttering about attitude problems as he walked away. The next night, the ballroom gleamed. Crystal chandeliers reflected soft golden light over silk-draped tables. The city skyline glittered beyond the windows. Ethan, dressed immaculately, raised his glass to toast the company's bright future. The applause rang hollow in the lavish space. And then the power flickered. Screens behind Ethan glitched, displaying a frozen image before restoring themselves. He laughed it off, continuing his speech. In the audience, Melinda noticed Darius standing discreetly by the back wall, hands folded behind him, wearing his usual work uniform. His eyes, though calm, watched intently. Ethan clicked the remote to display a slide about innovation and leadership, but instead, the projector displayed something else, a document. Ethan's face drained the color. It was an email exchange, exposing his racist remarks, mocking the diversity policy, and using slurs about employees. Gasps rippled across the room. Ethan froze, stammering, This is fake. Someone's hacking us. But Darius stepped forward, unplugging the remote gently. No hack, sir. Just a mirror. The audience turned toward him. Whispers erupted. Security hesitated, unsure who was in charge. Who are you? Ethan demanded, his voice trembling with fury and fear. Darius reached into his pocket and retrieved a small ID badge, but not the one everyone knew. He flipped it. The gold emblem of the board of directors glinted under the chandelier. You can call me Dr. Darius Cole, he said quietly, interim board member. I was appointed 6 weeks ago to audit internal culture and employee conduct. Gasps filled the hall. Ethan's jaw dropped. The same janitor he had mocked stood now as a man of power. The clock was ticking, and the situation was spinning out of control. Will the protagonist's courage be enough to overcome the systemic injustice? But before we see the shock of the reveal, take a second to tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Your support helps us share stories of true courage. Now, subscribe to the channel and let's get into the full story. The silence that followed was suffocating. Ethan's face burned red, his arrogance crumbling. He tried to recover. This is entrapment. You tricked us. Darius nodded slightly. You called it tricking. I call it observing. You see, the company needed to understand what happens when no one's watching. The investors murmured. Some looked away, ashamed. Melinda's eyes filled with tears, not just from vindication, but from the raw, unfiltered truth on display. Your behavior, Darius continued, his tone still calm, was precisely what this audit aimed to uncover. The words, the discrimination, the quiet complicity. His gaze swept across the crowd. Everyone who laughed is complicit too. Ethan tried to regain composure. I didn't mean any harm. It was just banter. You can't take a joke. Darius stepped closer. A joke stops being funny when it becomes someone's daily reality, when it builds walls higher than talent can climb. His words were soft, but each syllable landed like a hammer. For a brief moment, Ethan's mask cracked. He looked around and saw the board members whispering, the investors backing away, his career, his identity, disintegrating in real time. But just as justice seemed served, a legal officer stepped in. Dr. Cole, she said, voice tense. Your findings may be valid, but the data were collected under undisclosed identity. That violates internal procedure. Ethan's eyes lit up. So this is void. You can't touch me, he shouted. A murmur of frustration rippled through the room. Darius's calm faltered, just slightly. For a moment, it seemed like everything would be undone by a technicality. The same system protecting the guilty again. Then Darius exhaled. You're right, he said softly. The procedure might delay consequences, but it won't erase truth. He turned toward the screen, displaying one final file, a live video recording of employees, including Melinda and others, testify about the culture of racism and harassment. Ethan's smile froze. No, this isn't happening. His voice trembled now, stripped of its authority. Darius watched him, eyes reflecting a quiet storm. It's happening because you built the system. Every time you dismiss a complaint, every time you joke at someone's expense, you tighten the noose around your own reputation. That was an inevitable twist. Ethan realized his downfall wasn't from external sabotage. It was born from his own arrogance, his own history. Every document, every recording had been his doing. The mirror had simply been turned toward him. Security escorted Ethan out as reporters swarmed the building the next morning. His career was over. But Darius didn't smile. He simply stood by the window, watching the sunrise stain the skyline gold, his reflection overlapping with the city that had taught him pain and patience in equal measure. Later, the board announced sweeping reforms. They offered Darius a permanent leadership role in diversity and ethics. He accepted, but cautiously. When a new consultant, a young white ally named Jason, joined the reform committee, he clasped Darius's hand and said earnestly, "We'll fix racism once and for all, sir." Darius looked at him for a long moment. "We won't fix it," he said quietly. "We'll learn to see it. Every day." Jason blinked, confused. Seeing it is how we stop pretending it's gone. As weeks passed, the company transformed, new policies, new trainings, new promises. Yet, one morning, as Darius passed the lobby, he overheard a security guard mutter about quotas under his breath. The words were quiet, but not quiet enough. Darius paused, eyes on the spotless marble floor. He didn't turn around. He simply whispered, almost to himself, "The floor's clean, but the stains are always harder to see." Outside, a new intern laughed at a joke she shouldn't have. Inside, the cycle began again, quieter this time, more polite but still alive.